Welcome back everyone. So in today's video I will be showing you how to install Microsoft SQL Server on Mac environment, and once we have our SQL Server installed, I will also be showing you how to connect to your SQL Server from the terminal, and I will also be showing you as well how to connect to your server from DB for SQL Client and Azure Data Studio. Okay, so let's get to it. Microsoft SQL Server is primarily designed to run on Windows environment, so if you are on Mac and you want to run Microsoft SQL Server, then there is no straightforward way of doing that. But in this video, I will be showing you one of the easiest ways of getting Microsoft SQL Server up and running on Mac environment. So definitely stay to the end of this video because I will also be showing you how you can easily connect to your SQL Server and run your queries. Okay, so let's get to it. So in order to get Microsoft SQL Server running on your Mac environment, you do need to have Docker installed on your machine. So the only way and one of the easiest ways really to have SQL Server running on Mac is through Docker. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is to have Docker installed on your machine. And if you don't have Docker installed, then you can just go to Docker desktop. You can install Docker desktop. So if you just go here and click Docker desktop, I think you should be able to get Docker installed for your Mac. And actually there's a video that I made where I went through the process of installing Docker on Mac environment. And if you are either on Apple Silicon or Intel chip, you can just select here, right here. So for my case, I downloaded for Apple chip because I'm on M3. But if you're running on AMD or Intel, then you can download the second option. So if you want to know the steps of installing Docker desktop on your machine, there's a video that I previously made, and I will also put the link for that video in the description of this video so that you can take a look at it. Okay, so once you have Docker installed, then we will proceed with the rest of the steps. But if you are not sure whether you have Docker installed or not, one of the easiest ways of checking it is through the terminal. So if you come to your terminal and just type Docker and type Docker fashion, it's going to tell you whether you have Docker installed or not. So in my case right here, you can see that I have Docker version 27 installed, and also you will see for my case right here, it's showing here that it cannot connect to Docker, and this means that Docker is not running right now. So if you installed Docker desktop like myself, because I did install Docker desktop, then all you have to do in order to have the daemon running is just launch the desktop. Okay, so for my case, all I will do for that to run is I'm going to my launchpad right here, and as you can see, I do have Docker here. But if you don't see Docker here, then you can just type and search Docker in your search bar inside your launchpad. Okay, and all you have to do is just click it, and it's going to launch your Docker desktop. Okay, so this is my Docker desktop dashboard, and yours might be slightly different. I will recommend you log in to your Docker if you want, but you can also use it without having to log in. It's just easier when you are logged in to see and monitor your images. Okay, so my Docker is now running, and you can also see it. There's an icon right on top right here for Docker, and it's showing right now that Docker is running. So now if we go back to our terminal and check that command again now, then we should be able now to see a different result. Okay, so there you go. So now you can see that you have Docker and the more information about your server. For example, our server is running on Docker desktop and the version is 436. Okay, so we do have our Docker installed now, and we can confirm that it is running pretty nicely. Okay, so then the next thing that we need to do is to pull the image. Okay, so we need to pull the SQL Server image from Docker Hub. Okay, so I have the command for you right here for that, and I will also put this one in the description for this video, so that you can just go ahead and just copy it and put it in your terminal. Okay, so the second thing, of course, I have the steps here. So the first thing you need to do is to check that Docker is installed, and if you don't have it, then just go ahead and download and install Docker on your environment. And the second thing that you need to do is go ahead and pull the latest version of SQL Server from Docker registry. Now, so for this case, we are going to pull 2022, which is the latest version of Microsoft SQL Server. But if you are watching in future, and then you might have to change the version for that. But right now, if I just go right here and type SQL Server version, SQL Server version, latest version, you will see that for me it is showing 2022. Okay, so that is why we are going to pull the 2022 version for that. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this command docker pull, and this will just pull the image and the container from Docker registry and put it in our Docker. Okay, so before we actually go ahead and pull that image, if you go to your dashboard right here, if you go to your dashboard, your desktop dashboard, you will see that we don't have. If you go to containers, you will see there's nothing here. If you go to images, you will also see that there's nothing here, and you can get the same information from your terminal. If you type docker images, there is no image, and if you type also docker ps to check if there's any running container, there's nothing, and also if there's any stopped container, we don't have anything. Okay, so our Docker is pretty clean right now. We don't have any image. Yours might not be like this. If you have other images, then you will see the information for that. But I just want to show you that we don't have anything, at least related to SQL Server. Okay, so then the next thing that we need to do is just go and pull the image. So I'm just going to copy and pull copy, and I'm going to paste that command right here. So I will just paste it here and pull that image. Okay, so that's just going to pull the container and the image from Docker registry. Okay, and then it is, once it is ready, we will just then go ahead and launch our server, run our server, and primarily now Docker will be the host for this. We will be shutting it down using Docker, and then we will be monitoring it in Docker itself. So this one is pretty nice because you can spin it up and just shut it down without having to worry about how the environment is looking. Okay, so Docker is really good to have in general. Okay, so it's pretty lightweight. If you're in Windows and you have to install this and you don't want to use Docker, then it might be quite a bit of setup and it will take space in your environment. Okay, so it's very easy to use Docker, and I recommend it quite a lot for at least heavy applications because it does not take a lot of space. Okay, so now we have our image right here downloaded, and I believe our container as well. So if I clear this now, and let me zoom this, okay, so you can see. All right, okay, so if we type docker ps now, okay, just to see the containers, we don't have it. We don't see any running containers, that is. But if you check docker ps, looks like it didn't go through. But we can have the image, I believe. So I think it's the image that we downloaded, Docker images. If we check the images, we have the image now right here, and I think because the image is available, the container will only show once we run the image. Okay, so right now we don't have anything running because the image is just available, but we don't have it running. It will run inside a container, so the only time that's going to show here is most likely after you run the image. That's when you can see the container. Okay, so and then you can see the same information right here. If you go to containers here, you won't see it, but images, you can see now that we have an image here for Microsoft SQL Server, and it is not used right now. Okay, so now the third thing that we need to do after we pull our image is to go ahead and run it. Okay, so this is the command for that, the third command right here. So we are going to run our Docker image to start our SQL Server. Okay, and basically this is going to be listening for our SQL Server, and from there, once this is the only command, once we do this, then we can just go ahead and start using the environment. Okay, so you can see these are just 3 easy steps right here. Okay, so what I'm doing right here is basically running the image, and I'm putting this command here. Just docker run is standard Docker command, and we just want to run the image that we want to use. So in this case, I'm going to include this command right here, or a parameter or called platform. Okay, so this is only relevant, I would say, if you are running on ARM architecture. Okay, so that is M1, M2, M3, because I think we do not have Docker image for SQL Server that is on ARM. So if you don't include this one here, you will get a warning in your resource. I mean, in your when you run this, you will just get a warning if you don't include this. So for my guess, I just put it because I want to make sure that we are emulating AMD 64 as a platform, because again, we don't have an image for ARM architecture. We only have images for Intel computers. So if you're running again on MacBooks that are on Apple Silicon, or that is M1, M2, M3, then you can include this, but it's not required. And then what I'm basically doing on this next step here is we want to accept the license agreements for Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, so we want to put that on as yes here. And for the password, I'm just putting here the password. Okay, so I'm including here the password. So this will be the password that we actually now will be using to log in. Okay, if you don't want to do this from the command line, then you can create environment variables, I believe, where you can now refer to the variable here instead of the hard-coded value. So for my guess, this is demo, so I'm going to delete this, but I just put the password right here. Okay, so welcome at 123, and then I'm putting this one here. The this is just / because I'm running this on the terminal. If you don't do this, then you'll have to put all of this in one line. Okay, so this is important, because if you don't put this this symbol at the end here, and you paste this directly to your terminal, then you will get you will get errors. Okay, so then the only way is make sure that either you put this or you put the entire command in one line in order to run. Okay, so just that's one hack right there. Okay, so we put the password here, and then this is the port. So by default, the SQL Server runs on 1433, so also we want to include that right here. And the name for my container now, or the image that we will be having, is SQL Server. So we will be naming our image as SQL Server. So we are basically renaming this to SQL Server, and we can use this now when we are running the container and shutting it down. And then of course, this is the image now that we will be using to run our Docker image. Okay, so now let's go ahead and copy this, and we will just paste it right here as well. And I'm going to put this one also in the description for this video, so you can copy it if you need. So you don't have to type this. I'll just put it in the description. So if you want to follow along, just go right there and copy it. Okay, so you can now see that we have the image running, and now if you check the images, you will see that we have the image right here. And if you check the containers, we should have most likely a container running right here. There we go. Okay, so we have a container now here running, and you can see that we have the image right there. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom it again, this. So we have now an image that was created 24 seconds ago, and the status is showing us it's up and running. So if we go back now to our Docker, you can see that the container is right here, and you will see that warning here. That is the warning I was telling you, because SQL Server only is on AMD. So if you want to emulate, there's an error here that if you emulate this on ARM or things like that, in my case, then you may run into issues. I have not run into any issues, so you can ignore this. So that's just something else you can see. And now when you come to your images, you can see that it's now currently in use. So what this means is now that our Microsoft SQL Server now is running and listening for us to use. Okay, so now remember, we put this D here. This is basically to run in background, so we don't see the server actively listening. I believe if you don't include this flag here, then you will see output in your terminal. When you run that, you will see output in your terminal, and most likely it's going to tell you that now SQL Server is running and listening on port 1433. Okay, so in this case, again, we are running in background, and now we have our image running. So then the next thing that we need to do is to go ahead and connect to this SQL Server. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I will be showing you 3 ways of doing this. So from here, I will be showing you 3 ways of doing this. The first one that I will be showing you how to connect is through the terminal. Okay, so we'll be using the CLI. So I'll just show you how, to go ahead and install what you need to do in order to connect using the terminal. Traditionally, I'm not, I don't like using the terminal, and most likely it's your case as well. So if that's not you, then you can skip ahead on this video. I will be showing you as the second option how to use dbeaver as well. Okay, so dbeaver, which is another great SQL client tool that you can use. And then the third one they will be using is Azure SQL Studio, Azure Data Studio, that is, which is also a free SQL editor that you can get from Microsoft website. Okay, so those are the 3 tools that we'll be using to connect. Now I'm just doing this comprehensive so that if you want to use any of these 3 that I've mentioned, then you can go ahead and use it. But be free to skip ahead into the section where I'm using these tools. Okay, so the first one that we'll be using here is the terminal. Okay, so I'm right here on my terminal, and what we need to do in order to connect through the terminal is I am going to also paste this command right here. So we do need to install a SQL CLI. Okay, so SQL CLI is a tool that will let you to run your Microsoft SQL Server commands through the terminal, and for that we need to use npm to install, and npm is a node.js command. So if you don't have node.js installed, then all you have to do is, of course, I mean, if you want to run npm in your environment, you do need to have node.js installed. So that's a prerequisite, but to install it is pretty straightforward. Just go to node.js download, and it will bring you to this website here. Just go ahead and hit download, and then just go ahead and click and just follow the steps here, install it, and you should be good. I already have it installed, so I don't have to install it again. And you can also check that from here. If you check, I believe, npm version, you see it's working. Okay, so that's just another way of checking. So I have 10.9 as the npm version here. Now to install the SQL CLI, just copy this, and I'm going to paste it right here. Okay, and I will enter the password for my environment. Okay, and what this is going to do is it's going to install a SQL CLI. If it's already there, then it's it will just tell you that it's already there. If it's not, then it's going to install. But we have now the SQL client installed, and the next thing that we can do from here in order to connect now to our environment is to run this command. Okay, so just run ms SQL and then username. By default, the username is Ese. This is system administrator, so you don't have to create this username, and we didn't specify anywhere here. So this is a username that Microsoft SQL Server provides you if you are running SQL Server. So I'm just going to copy this, and I will put it right here in my terminal. And basically what we're doing here is we are just calling Microsoft SQL Server, the CLI command now that we are using to interact with SQL Server. This is username flag, and the username we're using is SA, and here we are just saying we want to enter our password after this. Okay, so the password that we did for that was welcome at 123, like that. Okay, so once you do that, now you can see that you are successfully logged into your SQL Server. Okay, so if you see something like this, we are now presented with the ms SQL command here, and this means that we are successfully connected. And you can see here also it's good. So that means that now we have connected to our SQL Server, and from here you can now start running commands from here. So one of the things that I usually like checking is to show my databases. So what we're going to do here is I will just select this is how you do it in SQL Server to check your databases. Okay, so select name from sys.databases, and this is going to show you your databases. So looks like right now we have 4 databases. We have this one, MasterDB, TempDB, Model, and MSDB. So these are the 4 databases that we have, and I think by default master database is the one that we use. So if you want to proceed from here, you can do that. You can just go ahead and use master and use the tables, or you can create your tables inside master database. One thing that I will do here before we switch over to dbfer is I will create a database called testdb. Okay, so I'm going to create this database from here, and I'll just show you that you can do that. So if you do that, create database testdb, you can see now that we have okay here, which means that it successfully ran. And if we check again, we can see that we have testdb right here. Okay, so that means that we are able to actually run our commands from terminal connected to our SQL Server. So if you just want to use a terminal, then up to this point you're good to go. Okay, now if you want to see also how to use some of the other tools like dbfer or Azure Data Studio, then keep watching, because in this next section here, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so right here now we are going to switch over to dbfer, and again this is dbfer, and dbfer is a SQL client tool that you can use to run your queries. It's super powerful. I've done a number of videos on dbfer, so take a look at the channel. I have done videos on how to connect dbfer to my SQL query. I've done videos on how to connect to Snowflake, Redshift. You know, you can connect dbfer to a lot of databases. Okay, so it's a powerful tool. But basically, all you have to do is go to dbfer and just download it. You get the free community edition, and it's pretty powerful. I also did a video where I went through the process of downloading this on Mac, so I will put the link for that one as well in the description, so you can go ahead and take a look and follow the process of installing it. Okay, so once you have a dbfer installed, then you will just need to go and launch it. And in my case, I'm going to go to my launchpad and I will look for dbfer right here, and I'm just going to bring it up. Okay, so this is going to bring up my dbfer, and as you can see, I have right here a number of databases and data warehouses connected. I have connected to BigQuery, Redshift, Snowflake, and also a number of local databases like right here. This is my my SQL Server, I think, and this is Postgre as well that I downloaded, and I'm connected to them. So now to connect now to your SQL Server from here, all you have to do is just go right here on top menu here where it says database and hit database connection, or you can go right here and just select the database from there. Okay, so whichever way you use, it will bring you to this location, and from here all you have to do is just look. I think you can browse for SQL Server. I don't know if we see it in this first page here. Right here, if you don't see it, then you can just look for it, SQL Server. Okay, and this is the one that we're going to connect to, SQL Server, and I'm going to open it. We are going to bring this next section here, and right here we just need to enter our host name and the rest of this. So our host name will be running on localhost because we are running on Docker. So Docker, the default host is localhost. You can specify the database here if you want to. For my case, I'm just going to leave this one empty because I want to connect to all the databases that will be in our server. And then for the authentication, we'll leave it as SQL Server authentication, and then we just put this username here, which is in this case I'm just going to use the default username, which is SA System Administrator, and then we enter the password, and this is the password that we specified when we were running our container. Okay, and then from here just go ahead and test the connection, and as you can see, we are successfully connected. Now one thing that you will see here is, if you are connecting for the very first time, you will need to download the driver. So a window will pop up for you asking you to download a Microsoft SQL Server driver, and this is the driver most likely for my case that you'll need to download. And so go ahead and download it, and then just go ahead and test the connection, and you will now be presented with this section here. Okay, so if there's any error, you will see it here, but if all is good, then you should see a screen like mine right here. So we are now successfully connected to our Microsoft SQL Server, and the only thing we need to do is just hit OK, and then just go ahead and hit finish right here. Okay, so now you can see that we have our connection here now, and you will see that this one is localhost 2 because I already have localhost here. Now just know that you can rename this, and I'm going to do that. I'm just going to rename this as SQL Server. And now I know that this is my SQL Server, and actually let me do that same thing with this one here. I will call this one my SQL because that one was for my SQL. And now all you have to do from here is just go ahead and expand this, and you will now see your databases. So you see this is a default database, master database. This is a default one, and I don't know if it, yeah, these are the tables that you get. And with SDB, this is the one we created from our terminal, and we don't have any table. Okay, so from here now you can go ahead and create sample tables. So to do that, you can minimize this or just go up to your server right here and open a new SQL script so that you can run your queries. Okay, and one of the things that we are going to do here is we are going to switch over to use that testdb database. So I'm going to use testdb as our database because we want to create a table and run some queries on this. So we have our testdb selected here now, and the next thing we are going to do here is to just create a basic table. So I'm just going to copy a command from here, and I will bring it below right here, and I'm just going to get rid of this and select this and run. Okay, so we have created our table here, and you can refresh it and just see if your table is created, which is what we have right here. And we don't have data right now, so I'm going to insert some data to this table. And to do that, I'm just going to insert basic data from here, like so. I'm just going to copy that and paste here, and we are going to run this like this. Okay, there we go. So now we have our data inserted to our table, and you can insert more records. I'm just going to insert one record, and from there we can go ahead and select from this table like so. Okay, so now if you do this, we should be able to see our data. There we go. So you can see now that we have our table and the data created, and we can now see the data right here. Okay, so this is just a very basic example, but from here, if you want to now explore this, then you can go ahead and do all your queries right here in dpfer. And as you can see, we have our now database actively working, and this is Microsoft SQL Server. Okay, so that is how you do it on dpfer. And now the next thing that we want to do is to switch over to Data Studio, and I'll show you how to connect to it and also run some of the queries as well. So to do that, just to download Data Studio, all you have to do is just you can go to your browser and look for Azure Data Studio. And Data Studio is also a SQL client that is provided by Microsoft SQL and is also free to download. You don't have to pay, so just go to this website and you can scroll down here and you can download for your machine. So if you're on Windows, then you can use one of these other ones, but for my case I'm on Mac, so I'm just going to use one of these two. So you can see we have Intel chip and Apple Silicon, so if you are on any of this, then you can go ahead. For my case, I'm on Apple, so I'm just going to hit there and it is going to begin the download, and once it's done, you just follow the steps and install it. Okay, so once it is installed, you will what I recommend is move it to your applications so that you can see it on your launchpad. Okay, so once you have it installed, you will get this one in your download, just the icon. Just move it over to your applications, and let me just show you that. So you will see Data Studio, Azure Data Studio. Once you double click this, actually like this, to install it, you just double click it and you will see something like this. Just drag it and drop it in applications. Okay, so you can see we already have there, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to hit here, stop here. Okay, so just do that. It's a nice thing to do because it's going to disappear if you don't. Okay, so once you have your Data Studio moved to applications, then just come to Launchpad and you will see Data Studio right here. And if you don't see it, then just also type Data Studio and just open it, and you will now be brought to this section of Data Studio. And to make the connection, then you can do it in two ways. You can do it right here where it says new and just click new connections, or you can just hit here where it says create connection. And from here you just need to enter the details for your server. So in our case, we have the connection type here as Microsoft SQL Server, and the server name here, So the parameters is server here, but it's also authentication type right here is Microsoft Enter ID. We are going to change this actually to SQL login. And what we want to do here is we want to enter the server name, which in our case is localhost. Okay, so localhost will be our server name, and the authentication type is SQL login. And then we just want to enter our username, which is SA system administrator, and just the password as well that we entered when we were creating and running our Docker image. Okay, and you can choose to remember this password. The database, you can choose the default one, or if there's in this case I don't think it's going to connect yet, but by default it's going to choose a default one. And then the encryption is okay. And then for the trust, we want to trust this. Actually, if you trust the server, let's see if we are able to choose a database. We are not, okay, but maybe if you choose enable trust certificate, okay, if you choose that, let's see if we are actually, yeah, okay, that's pretty interesting. So we can actually browse our database, which means that we are technically connected because we are able to choose. But yeah, you can choose if there's any database that you want to use here. In my case, I'm not going to do anything here. And then the rest is will be default. Okay, so this is all you need to do. Just put the server name, the user name, and the password, and make sure that you enable trust certificate. Turn this to true, and just go ahead and hit connect. Okay, so this is now going to successfully connect us to our database, and you can see your databases right here. So you can see the status of your databases, which is pretty neat, right? You can use this now. You can use Data Studio to monitor your databases. You can go to one of these and see what you have here. You have employees, and I think you can also select top 100 from there as well. Okay, and it's going to give you the data right here. You can also go up right here where it says connections, and I'm going to close this. Okay, so you go to connections here. You can see that you have your local host and green icon right here, which means that you are actively connected and it's running, the server is running. You can expand this and you will see your databases, and now you have system databases, and also in your databases right here, in your databases, you see that you do have this DB also created. Some of the other ones are system databases, which means that those are the databases that come with the server when you install. But if you create additional databases, you will see it right here. So for this DB, that's what you created manually after we installed. That's why you see it right here, and you can go ahead and browse the tables inside your test DB. And in our case, we do have employees, and that's what we created in dbfer. And now you can go ahead and select top 100 in this table. Okay, so that's how you can do it. And you can see now, if you have the SSMS one, if you're running on Windows, then you will see something very similar to this. The other way of doing this also is you can just come up here and get new query, create new query, and you can say use this DB as our database, and then just select a star from our table, in this case, which is employees, and it should be able to run. So you can select this one first, and then after that just do this. There we go. So you can see your data, and it's the same thing that we saw in our dbfer SQL client. Okay. Okay, so we have now successfully connected all of these three tools to our SQL Server, and whichever one you like, you can go ahead and start using it. Personally, I like using dbfer a lot, and as well as Data Studio. Okay, so again, from here, you can now start doing your projects in SQL Server, running your queries, and whatever you need to run in SQL Server. Alright, so we have our connections now established, and we have our tools up and running. And now if you want to shut down your server, once you are done for the day, then to shut down your containers, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is just go to your Docker desktop if you're using Docker desktop, and you can go right here and you can delete it. The same thing with your container, you can delete it if you want, or actually you can pause it or stop it. And let's see if you can do the same thing with the image. I think you can delete the image, but you can go ahead and stop the container. So if we do that, you can just go here and say stop the container, and it is going to stop the container. And I believe after a few minutes, this is going to be showing us not in use. Okay, so if you want to delete the container, you can delete it. if you want to start it back, you can come and start it right here, and it is the same thing. If you just go back to your terminal, I'm going to exit out of this. So if you click, I think it's Control C, and clear this, and now you do docker ps. We don't have any docker container running now because we stopped it, but I think we still have it. If you use this flag we still have it, but you know, it exited. You can still see your images running. Okay, so we have our image right here as well. Okay, so you have your container now stopped and your image is still showing as in use, and I think this is always going to be in use because you have your server installed here, but the container will be the one that you want to stop. Okay, so once you stop the container, then your server will be stopped as well. And you can also go back to your terminal and check the same. So if you type docker ps right here, it's not going to show anything because we don't have any running container. And right here you will see that this was turned off about 2 minutes ago. Okay, now what you can do from here, if you want to test back if you can still connect to your server, if you go back to your SQL, if you go back to your tools, for example, if you go to dbfire here and try refreshing here, if you refresh your SQL server and try connecting to it, it's not going to show because now the host has been closed. The container is no longer running, so you're no longer able to connect. And you can do the same thing here. If you do the SQL server and try connecting, enter your password, it will not be working. Okay, so now you have your container not running anymore. And again, you know, if you want to come back and start off again, all you have to do is just come right here. If you're using the desktop, just come here, select it and just hit start, and that's going to start your container. Or if you come to terminal, you can come to terminal and just say docker start, and I think we named it SQL Server. Okay, like that. So that's going to start it, and now if you do docker ps, you will see that it's running and it's listening on port 1433. And if we go back to our container here, it's now actively running, and I believe if you come back here now and refresh this, we should be able to connect. There we go. Alright guys, so that is how you now install SQL Server and get it up and running on Mac environment. Again, in this video, we went through the process of installing SQL Server on Mac environment, and we did that using Docker. So we made sure that we have our Docker installed, and from there, all we did was just pull the image that we needed. And once we pulled our image, which was the command right here, we pulled our image, we went ahead and ran the image, and of course we specified our password for our database and the name for our image and container. And from there we went ahead and used several tools. So we of course used the terminal, and for that we had to install the CLI, and then from there we went ahead and used dbfire. Again, for dbfire I did a video on how to install this, so if you don't know how to install it, I will put the video in the description. And then as well we went through the process of installing Data Studio. Okay, and I showed you all of these 3 tools, how to connect them to your SQL Server and run your queries. Alright guys, that's all I had for you in this video. If you found this video helpful, please give thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do also subscribe so that you can stay updated for these amazing videos. Alright guys, I will see you then in the next video. Bye bye.